Somebody is still talking on the... Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all for today's virtual meeting. Today's virtual meeting is going to be on the topic of Gangaikonda Cholapuram, the part 2 of that lecture in continuation of what we saw in the last week. In today's lecture, we will be talking about the temple, the sculptures in the temple, and I again will take you on a virtual tour to the beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. In our last presentation, we saw in detail about the city, how Gangaikonda Cholapuram and what was the reasons behind this new city coming up and how Rajendra built this city in such a planned manner. And what a great builder he was. And we also saw about the great king Rajendra, who became the Chola king at the age of 40. He had great ambitions, and with that, how he conquered the palace of the Bengal region and brought the Ganga water from there and purified the beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. And he also entered the temple, saw the gateway of the temple, went around the first prakara of the temple, saw the Tenkailayam, Vadakailayam, the Mahishasuramardhini temple, and also the Simakeni and other places located in the temple. We also saw how this beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram, which existed as a grand edifice at once upon a time, was destroyed during the Muslim invasion under Malik Kafur in 1310 and 11. And later, a great destruction to this temple was conducted during the time of the British by pulling down all the prakara mantabas and taking away the stones for building up a check dam across the Kollidam River. Today, what we see in the temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram, what had existed out of what Rajendra had built it. So with that previous note of what we saw in last lecture, we enter into this presentation. We'll see about the main Vimana of this temple, the inside area of this temple, and also explore the sculptural beauty and the grandeur of this temple in all details. With this, let's go inside the temple. The most magnificent structure of this Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple is that beautiful Vimana, which stands so majestically over the sanctum of the temple. What a beautiful, majestic Vimana. This Vimana can be seen somewhere about 3-4 kilometers away from this temple. It's such a beautiful, magnificent structure that stands tall in the sky. And it's amazing to see the Vimana there. This is the first thing that catches the eye of any visitor who comes to Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Now, what you see here is the two Vimanas of Gangaikonda Cholapuram and the Tanjavur. The Vimana of Gangaikonda Cholapuram, unlike the Tanjavur Vimana, is not square and pyramidal as it tapers, but it beautifully tapers in an angle up to the Shikhara. If you see the Tanjavur Vimana, from the base, it's a square of 96 feet, and it tapers into exactly a pyramidal shape of 96, into a square pyramidal shape. But here, this Vimana is so beautiful, and it is tapering in such a beautiful angle and it gives a majestic look to this Vimana, which is very unique of its temple. Now coming to this Vimana is called the Sri Vimana, and normally any Sri Vimana consists of certain parts, and we'll explore what are they right from the basement level. The first one, what you see is the Upapita or the basement. The basement structure is known as Upapita. This is what is Upapita. The next one is the Adrishtana, the base on which the structure is built. That's called as Adrishtana. The third one is Bitti. The wall structure is called as Bitti or Kal, they call it. So that is the structure which goes for the building of the temple. The fourth one is the Prastara, which is the roof cornice. On all sides it goes, that is Prastara. And the next thing is the Hara. This is something like a miniature shrines built all around like a garland. It goes around the temple, and that's called the Hara element of the temple. What you see here is the Hara elements, miniature shrines all around the temple. Vimana is called the Hara. The next one is the Talas, the different levels in which the Vimana is rising up to the top. Each level is called as Tala. Each Tala, like that, this has got 9 Talas or 11 Talas like that. It goes. So each level is called a Tala, and each Vimana has got different Talas. And the next portion is called the Griva or the neck portion. The neck portion is the topmost portion where it really shortens up. And that is called as Griva, just as our neck holding the head. The neck portion, the Griva portion holds the Shikhara of the temple. So it's called the Griva. And the next thing, what you see is the Shikhara, the rounded finale on top of the temple is known as the Shikhara, the crowned head. And above that Shikhara is placed the stupi or the kalasa, what we call it. And this forms the entire structure of the Vimana. The Vimana is described in this form throughout in the Indian architectural style. So this Vimana, when you see that, the entire Vimana is conceived as a Lingakara. Since this is a temple of Shiva, the Vimana structure itself is conceived as a Lingakara. The entire space, the sky, is seen as Akasha, the open space. And this Vimana which stands there is considered as Shiva, Shiva Linga. So the entire Vimana is considered as a Lingakaram. And this Gangaikonda Cholapuram Vimana is such a huge and magnificent one. It's why it's conceived as a Lingakaram, and people worship this Vimana itself as Shiva. Now, this temple is built over a square base measuring 120 feet by 120 feet. If you see the Tanjavur temple of Rajarajeshwaram, it is 96 feet by 96 feet, but this is much bigger than that. And this is 24 feet more than that. And this is a square base measuring 120 feet by 120 feet. A double wall structure goes up, raising to a height of almost 60 feet into levels. It rises to a level of 60 feet from the ground, and then only the Vimana starts tapering. So this is the base of the square base of the entire temple, which measures 120 feet by 120 feet. The Vimana from the base up to the top Shikhara or the Kalasa measures 186 feet, and it tapers from a square base and then transforms itself into octagonal form And on top of that, the Shikhara is placed. So beautifully it tapers from a square to octagonal shape, and it stands 186 feet tall. Whereas the Tanjavur Gopurams is almost 216 feet from the ground up to the top Kalasa. A lot of people say that this temple was designed to build much higher than Tanjavur. But that is not at all true. Because of the base, you cannot judge that this Vimana is being designed to build like that. Because that is a separate entity, and this is a separate entity. All the designs are well made in advance, and that's how the temple is constructed. So it is conceived to be like this, with a big base, broader base, and tapering Vimana on top of it. The Adhisthana area of this temple provides us a space for walking around or going around the pradakshina of this temple. And that's the Adhisthana. Just close to Adhisthana, you have the place where you have to walk around the temple, and you can go on a pradakshina, seeing all the sculptures. That base of that is beautifully decorated. The lower level of the Adhisthana is beautifully ornamented with sculptures. You can see a lot of yali figures and lion figures with their paws lifted up. It's something phenomenal in this particular temple. You have the Adhisthana is full of sculptures. Look at that. That's one of the photographs for the Adhisthana in one corner. This is the walking space, what you find the brick structure there. There's a walking space, and this is the Adhisthana. And the entire Adhisthana, the down below portion, is beautifully decorated with these lion sculptures, lion and yali sculptures. There is a lotus molding, or the Kumuda molding, what we call that, topped with friezes of yali. You can see the friezes of yali all around there. And that is the beautiful Adhisthana of this Gangaikonda Cholapuram. You can see this yali. A very imposing yalis, you can see that, with the riders on top of the yali. And see how beautifully they have etched out each and every yali with finest details. The base level of this Adhisthana, starting from here up to this level, so you see the frieze of yali. This is what forms the base of the sanctum, which is located inside. The base of the sanctum is the height of this Adhisthana. The sanctum is located at that height. The floor level of the sanctum is located at that height. So that way, this is beautifully designed temple. That portion of the wall structure rising above the Vimana's base up to the roof is called the Bitti. What you see in the line mark given here, arrow mark here, this entire portion is called as Bitti or Kal. This is the principal element of the temple that encases the sanctum. This is what covers the entire sanctum from outside. You have the inside and outside. So this Bitti forms the beautiful outer wall of the temple, and also has the many kostas in that. There are so many deities are accommodated in these kostas. So what you see here in the square marked, the marked portion, the temple is divided, the Bitti is divided in two halves, two horizontal courses intervening by the cornice. So this is denoting the two-level structure of the Vimana. The two-level structure of the Vimana is shown very clearly with the cornices there. The lower portion has got the niches, which is the kostas of the temple. And these kostas are so many images of gods and goddesses are there. And similarly, the upper portion also has the same level of koshtas and godly images there. The sculptures on the upper course represents besides Shiva, some aspects of Shiva and the guardian deities, basically Ashtadik Palakas. See the upper koshta, you see one of the Kalasamahara Murtis of representation of Shiva here on the upper koshta. And you find all the Ashtadik Balas. Ashtadik Balas are the 8 guardians of the 8 directions. They are the gods, like Yama for the south, the Ishana for the Ishana Dik, and all that. All these Ashtadik Palakas are kept there in the top level koshtas. You can see a beautiful Gajasamhara Murti form of Shiva on one of the top koshtas there. What a splendid work of Gajasamhara Murti. Amazing stuff. Amazing, beautifully amazing representation of Gajasamhara Murti seen on one of the top koshtas. The roof cornice consists of mainly 3 parts. Down below the roof cornice, what you see here in these areas, unfortunately, it's not seen in the photographs. You'll find a lot of ganas playing there. That is called as bhutavaris. That forms the bottommost portion of the cornices that's there. And above that, you have this yalivaris. You see here, the yalivaris are here. Above the bhutavari, you have the yalivaris. And above that yalivari, you have the spade-like ornamentations that you see here with a yali head. And then you find the entire Vimana proceeding from there. The row of miniature shrines runs all around this like a garland. It's called the Hara. Garland is Hara. So like a garland it goes, all these small miniature shrines one by one, what you see here is what is called as Hara. In that Hara, the center portion of that alone is slightly bigger. What you saw here was the Hara element, a small temple, miniature shrine. And in the center portion is called the Sala, which is slightly white. You see here in this image, center portion is slightly white. It's called the Sala. And similarly, each Hara is beautifully represented like a miniature temple with the image of God inside. You can see the beautiful image of Subramanya Swami here, seated on the elephant. What a beautiful image of Subramanya Swami seated on the elephant. This is shown in one of the Hara elements of the Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple. Now coming to the Vimana. The Vimana rises to 9 levels, 9 tala levels, starting from the ground floor. And it goes beautifully, tapers up to the Shikhara. This is the beautiful view of the Vimana of the Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple. And the beautiful decorations of miniature shrines all over the Gopuram. You can see that. The niches are topped with arch-like elements and with the Kirti Mukhas or the Yali Mukhas, what you see here. Everywhere you will find this Yali Mukhas in all aspects. So the entire decoration of the Vimana is done with the Yali Mukhas or the Kirti Mukhas. And this is one of the photographs taken at the top level of the temple when we had been there. And you can clearly see the Kirti Mukhas here. Beautiful Kirti Mukhas here. On the first floor level of the temple, you can see the 2 Dwarapalakas and all that. It's a beautiful picture of very close view of the thing. We went there on a hot summer day. We had to rush and run there to see that. Now coming to the Griva portion, on the 4 corners of the Griva, you have the niches. And these are the 4 niches that you see on the 4 sides of the Griva, the cardinal directions. And they are also beautifully decorated with a Kirtimukha. And you find the Nandis, the 8 Nandis that are there on the Griva, seated on the Griva. Unlike Tanjavur temple, the Nandis are very, very smaller in size and they are not very prominently seen. The Shikhara and the Nandi are comparatively small. This is because of the design that this temple has been built. It is nothing to do a comparative study, but then the design of the temple requires only a Shikhara to be of this size and the Nandi is also proportionate to that. So the Vimana is a tapering Vimana, and that's why this is in total contrast with the Tanjavur temple. Look at that, the beautiful tapering Vimana. The global element of Shikhara, according to traditions, it's normally made of a single stone. In fact, in this particular temple, it's made of many pieces of stones, cut and dressed for this particular purpose. It is not a single stone, and it's also not single stone in Tanjavur either. So all this Shikhara element is made of different multiple stones only. The final stupi of the Kalasa is a metal vase-like image, which is like a lotus bud placed on the top, that's been normally gilded in gold and said to carry the inscription of the person who installs it. In this particular Shikhara, the inscription is named as Nallakka Tola Udayar, a Zamindar of Udayar Palayam, who had placed the Shikhara on top of this temple during 19th century. Probably the original Shikhara, that stupi which was placed by Rajendra Chola must have gone missing or must be a gold one and it was looted, something like that. So it was without a stupi on the top and thus was placed in the 19th century by the Zamindar of the Udayar Palayam. This is a wonderful view, a drone shot view of the entire Vimana. You can see how beautifully the Vimana tapers from a square to octagonal shape, and the Shikhara, you can see the circular Shikhara, such a big Shikhara, but when you see it from down below, it looks so small. But considering the size of the round, you can very clearly say it's a very big Shikhara, and the stupi is on top of it. So the entire Vimana, which is square from the base, tapers beautifully into octagonal shape in 9 levels and beautifully ends on top of the Shikhara. What a beautiful representation of this wonderful Vimana, a drone view of that Vimana. Now, we come to the sanctum of the temple. We'll see how it has been structured. Now, we have to see is the line drawing of the thing. First thing you see here is the outer wall, which is almost 120 feet by 120 feet square. The outer walls are beautifully decorated with all the kostas that you see on the 3 sides. And this outer wall with the kostas, what you see is almost 13, the outer wall is 13 feet wide. And the next one, the first one is the inner wall you see here. The inner wall is 11 feet and the Garbhagraha is 60 feet by 60 feet square. And the outer wall, I told you, it is 13 feet square, 13 feet width. So 13 feet and 11 feet, in between you have the 6 feet, the Sandara. The passage that you see here, the yellow colored passage, is the Sandara or the Pradakshina path between the 2 walls. So that is called as a Sandara. The Sandara is 6 feet in width. And you have the right outside the Garbhagriha, you have an entrance to the Garbhagriha on the south side and also an entrance from the north side. And in front of that, you have the Ardha Mandapam. This is the Garbhagriha. People have the darshan of the Lord from here. That is the Ardha Mandapam. As soon as you enter through the north or south entrance and come there, you stand in the Ardha Mandapam and have the darshan. And right in front of the Ardha Mandapam, you have a big hall for everybody to be accommodated, and that's called the Maha Mandapam. So that is the ground plan of the temple. Now what you see here is a schematic sketch of how this temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram would have been in the time of when it was constructed. When it was constructed, it was a beautiful Vimana on top of the Garbhagriha, and you had the entire Maha Mandapam running to almost 100 and odd feet and 120 feet width. With two-story level, you had that beautiful Maha Mandapam and the staircase leading up to the Vimana. All these things were there. Unfortunately, it was all destroyed. The covered portion, what you see, was totally destroyed during the Islamic invasion. And it was in rubble condition. It was totally in rubble condition. They had destroyed the whole portion. Only a small portion of this portion alone of the old structure is still remaining there. The entire portion that what you see in the present day temple was rebuilt, that we'll see again. Now coming to the Vimana, how beautifully it is being designed. Now what you see here is the Shikhara, and the entire thing is structured in such a way, each and every stone is placed one above the other, and the entire Vimana is brought into the beautiful shape with huge stones, just laying it one above the other with an interlocking system. And today it holds good, even almost 1,000 years, 997 years, it still holds good beautifully. That is the beautiful Sri Vimana of the temple. And the entire Sri Vimana gap that you see here, from the Garbhagriha up to the top, this is seen as the Lingakara. They call this as Akasha Linga. The entire space is conceived as a Linga. All the Saivites, they think the entire place right above the Shiva, inside the Garbhagriha and the open space is Lingakara. So this is called as the Akasha Linga. And you have a passage, Sandara, going at 3 levels. The ground floor, the first floor, and the second floor. Unlike Tanjavur temple, you have 3 levels of Sandara in this beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. This is the first floor level, and this is the Sandara at the ground level. So when you go up and see, the entire structure here is now a false roofing has been made. I had the opportunity to go here along with a few others also. So when you go here and see, there's a small opening right here, and through which you can see the beautiful Shika or the head of Shiva there. It glows, beautifully it glows. Inside the Garbhagriha is the beautiful Shiva Linga. The Shiva Linga is placed here, and this is how this is a new structure or a false roofing which has been made here. And earlier, this false roofing will not be there. Once people come here close to the Shiva Linga or the Garbhagriha and see up, the entire Vimana is seen. And that they worship as the Akasha Linga. This is how the entire structure of the Vimana is seen from inside. It's totally hollow. You can see the entire placement of the stones in such a beautiful manner up to the Shikhara. This empty space is what you call as the Akasha Linga, very similar like that the Tanjavur temple. It follows the same pattern like what is seen in Tanjavur. It's beautiful. Tanjavur, it is almost square. Here you can find the octagonal shape very clearly. The sanctum enshrines the main deity, the Gangaikonda Cholishwara. is encased inside the Garbhagriha, which is 59 feet square. And it's a beautiful, huge Shiva Linga, which is placed inside. Look at that huge Shiva Linga inside the Garbhagriha of the temple. The height of the Shiva Linga is 13 feet from the ground, and the circumference of the Shiva Linga is 50 feet. This Shiva Linga is said to be the biggest Shiva Linga enshrined in any of the sanctums in the temples of South India. So this is one of the biggest Shiva Lingas that you can see in South India. A similar linga, which is huge in size, is what is seen in Bhojpur. Otherwise, I have not seen any bigger Shiva Lingas. This is one of the biggest Shiva Lingas and very, very beautiful Shiva Linga. Look at that. This Shiva Linga glows by itself. See, the Shiva Linga has got something very important here. And if you happen to go to this particular temple and if you have some particular talk and they will explain you, when all these lights are switched off, it's always a Garbhagriha is a dark place, which is totally dark and hardly all these oil lamps are there. But electrical focus lights are given now today to show that linga prominently. When you switch off all the lights and it's pitch dark inside, the Shiva Linga alone, the outline of the Shiva Linga glows. I don't know how it happens. Even today you can see when the switcher lights are all switched off, the outline of the Shiva Linga glows. That is the marvelous aspect of this particular temple, where the lighting is such a way arranged, even in the diffuse light, the Shiva Linga is prominently seen. It's an amazing feature that one has to experience when we go to the temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. And outside the sanctum of the Gangaikonda Cholishwaram, you have the massive monolithic Dwarapalakas guarding the various entrances. We have so many 6 pairs of this Dwarapalakas in this temple. And this is one of the majestic, massive, monolithic Dwarapalaka that you see in front of the sanctum of the Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The first pair of the Dwarapalakas you see in the entrance of the Gopuram, which we saw in the last presentation. The second is at the entrance of the temple in the Mahamandapam. And third one is in the entrance of the Artha Mandapam. And the fourth one you see in the front of the Garbhagriha. This is the fourth pair of Dwarapalaka. And normally it is called Nandi and Mahakala and thing. So these Dwarapalakas are massive monolithic structures. The other 2 pairs of the Dwarapalakas are located on the south and the north entrances of the temple. Amazing Dwarapalakas you can see here. This is the other Dwarapalaka in front of the sanctum. These Dwarapalakas are magnificent and exquisite sculptures. They are a beauty by itself. How beautifully we can destroy this beautiful sculpture? This is what we see here. People who come to pray take the Vibhuti Prasadam and they don't carry it, they don't put it on their forehead, they just apply it on top of this beautiful stuff, Dwarapalakas. Look at the way so much of Vibhuti is accumulated on the foot of the Dwarapalaka. Apart from that, they have used this Vibhuti and applied patta, this is lines on top of this Dwarapalaka as far as they could reach it. So you can imagine if a man reaches almost about 8 feet, you can see the remaining portion of it is untouched. So this Dwarapalaka is about 16 feet tall, huge Dwarapalaka. How beautifully we have damaged it. It's pathetic sight in spite of this being a World Heritage Site. And in front of this Artha Mandapam, the place from where you have the darshan of the Lord, you can see the huge square pillars with some decorations and the bhutavaris that you can see on the top. They are just plain square pillars that support the entire structure of the Ardhamandapam. The walls, on the walls of the Garbhagraham and the opposite of the Ardhamandapam, you have many sculptural images represented of Shiva, like Ravana shaking the Kailas, Shiva as Chakradana Murti, then you have the Parvati Kalyanam, Kirata Arjuniya, Kalasamhara, Chandeshwara Gramurti, and so on. So many other images are there. Unfortunately, I do not have the photographs of that to be shown to you. They don't allow you to photograph it either. This is the Garbhagraha of this beautiful Gangaikonda Cholishwara that you can see there. There's something very mystic about the sanctum and the area around the sanctum of the Gangaikonda Cholishwara. Gangaikonda Cholapuram is a very, very hot place and a very humid place. During summer, it goes up to almost 45 degrees and above. In spite of the high temperature that is outside the temple area, once you enter the temple is always cool. It's very cool. You will not sweat. You will not feel the heat. And similarly, during winter times, you'll feel slightly warm inside. That is something very phenomenal to this particular temple, which can be experienced by everyone. And this, they say, because of the Chandrakanta stone that is being placed. Chandrakanta stone is nothing but a stone from the moon, which is absolutely not the right thing to say. The reason why this is so is because of the beautiful cross ventilation that happens inside that. The engineering structure of the sanctum of this temple is so beautifully done and designed that the cross ventilation and the airflow is so beautifully arranged that you feel this extreme climates also. You'll find it very comfortable to be inside this temple. This is an amazing feature of this Gangaikonda Cholishwara. Now, when you enter the temple, when you right outside the sanctum of the temple, as you come out, to your left, you have a beautiful image of Devi there. This Devi is Devi Sharada. It's very interesting. And this is a war booty, war trophy brought from the Chalukya region. And this is the image of Sharada Devi. And this image of Sharada Devi very aptly suits the Dhyana Sloka of Sharada Devi, where it says, Arunakyam Bhagavati, Arunabham Vichintaye, Pasham Kushadaram Devi, Dhanudbhana Dharam Shivam, Varadabaya Hastancha, Pustahacha Sahanvitam, Ashtabagum Trinayana Kelantim Amurtam Budo. Devi Sharada you always see with Pustakam and Chinmudra. Whereas the Dhyana Sloka, she says, she carries the Pasha and Ankusha, Dhanudbhara, and she is Shiva by herself. She carries the Akshamala in the hand and the Pustaka also in the hand. So Devi Sharada, she is Parameshwari. She is the one who gives the knowledge to us. So she is worshipped as the great Parameshwari. And this is the image of Sharada Parameshwari, which is one of the war booties brought by Rajendra Chola from the Chalukya region and kept here in this temple. It's one of the most beautiful and divine sculpture that you can find in this temple. Placed inside the Garbhagraham, Rajendra knew the greatness of this image. That's why he placed it next to Shiva. Something like a Bhoga Shakti, he has placed it here. And all the importance of people who come here, if they worship this Lord, Devi, they are enriched in their knowledge. And this is one of my favorite sculptures of this particular temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Now, you see this is the entrance on the south side of the temple. You have the two huge monolithic images of the Dwarapalas standing on either side, guarding the entrance onto the south. You have the steps that lead to the sanctum or the Ardha Mantapa. You closely watch these steps. This huge temple, built in such a big fashion, massive structures, the temple's steps should have been broad for anybody to walk and go up fast. But here, the steps are placed in such a small manner that you cannot place your entire foot on that. Only half the foot you have to keep that to walk to the next step. So that way, the steps are very narrowly arranged. The reason why, one of my friends, he says, he's a great scholar, he says, this particular structure is created by Rajendra, who was a great Shiva Bhakta. Anybody who wants to enter this temple should go there and enter this temple with devotion. And their mind should be free of thoughts from other side of the world. And their concentration should be only on Shiva. So when your concentration is totally on Shiva, you say Shiva, 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 and walk that. So carefully placing one after another, very slowly, giving yourself to Shiva, you walk up the steps. On all the steps that you find on the north entrance and south entrance and also on the main entrance, all these steps are arranged so narrowly. What a beautiful way of conceiving and bringing in devotion to the bhaktas who are coming to this temple. A great king, how beautifully he is conceived and thought that everybody who comes to this temple should come with devotion, has created this wonderful steps here. Look at the grand Dwarapalakas. What a beautiful, majestic one. Standing 16 feet tall. Look at that face with the Tarjani Mudra. He's seen with the Tarjani Mudra. Beware of yourself. You are entering into the temple of Shiva. This is the place of God. I am a huge person. I am warning you. That's what he says. Look at his eyes, bulging out, twisted eyebrows, wonderful crown, and the tusks coming out of his mouth. What a beautiful, grand, and a massive person he should be, this Dwarapalas. We'll see about the massiveness of these Dwarapalas also. Look at that. This Dwarapalaka is standing with this one leg on top of a snake. You can see the snake here. He's put his one leg on top of a snake. You can see that one leg placed on the top of the snake. That snake is swallowing an elephant. You know what will be the size of an elephant? Elephant is a huge animal. If a snake has to swallow that elephant, that snake has to be such a huge one. And this man, Dwarapalaka, is putting his leg on top of the snake as if he's stamping on a bird. So this person, this Dwarapalaka, must be a huge person. Now that Dwarapalaka warns you. He says with the Tarjani Mudra, beware of yourselves. You are entering into this temple. You are entering into the temple of God. Beware of yourself. But once you are aware of all these things and go inside, it is Vishmaya Mudra. It is bliss, ultimate bliss. That's what he explains here in this. All the Dwarapalaka images of this temple do have the same representation, very beautifully depicted. All these Dwarapalakas. This is in the north entrance, one of the Dwarapalakas in the north entrance. Look at him. Very majestic. Very, very majestic. Look at his face. A close-up. If you see from down below this Dwarapalaka, this is how you can see him. Only from about 20, 30 feet away, you can see his structure in full. But when you are close to him, if you just look up and see the Dwarapalaka, you can see that. Look at his bulging eyes. He looks down at you. Every person who stands there can feel that that Dwarapalaka is looking at me. His eyes is pointed to you. with open eyes, twisted eyebrows and the tusk coming out. He warns you out and tells you how you got to enter into the temple. What a beautiful, what a grand representation of this excellent sculpture of Dwarapalaka. These are the two Dwarapalas you see on the main entrance again. They are slightly smaller in size. Maybe these were there in some part of this temple, and it was retried, and when they rebuilt this particular Mahamandapam in the front, they have placed it, it looks like. It doesn't look like the original one which belongs to this particular place. Must be from this temple, from elsewhere. It looks to me like that. Look at that. The main entrance is also from the sides. No, we can't just go straight walking to the sanctum. You have to go through the sides, like the god inside, the arteries and veins coming from the either side. You'll have to go from the side, and the god is the place where the heart is the place where the god resides. It represents that. And these steps are also very narrow. You'll have to walk very, very slowly and cautiously to get inside. And that's what you see here. The Mahamandapa, the first place of Mahamandapa, what you see here should have been a grand one in 2 levels, which was when it was built, and the portion of it was totally demolished. What you see here, up to this portion only, the original mandapa is existing. The rest of the portion is totally demolished. And of course, the base was there. And top of that base, they have built this Mahamandapa with all the available stones that they could find out scattered in this place. They have made it somewhere in during the Vijayanagar time. And all the sculptures that were lying down here, there, everything was picked up and placed in these koshtas as koshta images also. Probably in the 18th century, this was reconstructed during the Nayak period, and the entire mandapa, which was destroyed by the invasion of Balika fort, was there in rubbles. Nobody could enter. A lot of vegetation had grown up, and the entire thing they had to pull down the entire Mahamandapa, and whatever was surviving, they have constructed this beautiful Mahamandapa, now what we see here. Now, as you enter inside the Mahamandapa, you can see very clearly, this is not a Chola structure. All the pillars that you see is very typical Vijayanagar structure of 17th, 18th century, built by the Vijayanagar Nayak kings who ruled this place. And the entire pillars are placed on a raised platform, and that runs around all over this Mahamandapa. And on the raised platforms, you have grilled area in which the Utsav Murtis and few other images, bronze images under worship of this temple are also, bronze Murtis are all kept here. Look at that raised level. On top of that, the Mandapa is there. This is the Mahamandapa, as you see it today. And in this place, you have a wonderful image of Subramanya Swami, a bronze murti made by Rajendra Chola and installed in this temple. A very, very unusual image of Subramanya Swami murti that you can see here. Here, you can see Subramanya as Devasenapati. And this image should have been the image of Subramanya Swami once he did the Surasamhara. So once he did the Surasamhara, he is being crowned with the flower garland on his head. Sura, after Samhara, one part of his body becomes the rooster, and the other part becomes the peacock. So he is holding this cock in his one hand, and here you can see this. He's holding a shield and a sword. Normally, Subramanya Swami is seen with the Shakti Hastam, Shakti Aidam and Vajra Aidam in these two upper arms. Here, instead of that, you have this. And you have this beautiful sword which is missing. And Subramanya Swami is dressed as if he's a warrior. Now, this is one of the most beautiful images that was made for this temple exclusively by Rajendra and worship and still under worship in this beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Now, in one part of this extreme northeast corner, you have this beautiful image of a Peetham. It's called as Saura Peetham. People call it as Navagaraha Chakram. Again, this is a Surya Peeta, which is again a war trophy brought from the Kalyani Chalukya areas. And it is this type of thing is not there in this Tamil country. And it's still under worship now here. There is something very phenomenal about this. It's a very unique Surya Peeta. And the flat portion you see here on top is Surya. Surya is not represented in any image form, but he is represented as a full-blown lotus with all the petals open. So that is what the Surya is represented as, a full-blown lotus. And that lotus is seated on the chariot, and the chariot is driven by Aruna. The charioteer of of Surya, who runs this chariot with 7 horses. And around that Surya, you have all the Navagrahas there. And on the corners, you have the Gandharvas. It's ornamented so beautifully with Gandharvas holding the garlands in their hands. This is a very, very unusual representation of Navagraha. It is known as Saura Peetham or Surya Peetham. And this is absolutely not belonging to this Tamil country. It was brought in as a war booty or a war trophy from the Kalyani Chalukya regions. Amazing one that everyone must see this in this temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Now we walk out of the temple and go around the Pradakshina, exploring the beautiful sculptures of the temple. The first sculpture that we come across is that of Mahalakshmi. Look at that beautiful Mahalakshmi. What a beautiful Mahalakshmi you can see her. She's seated with 2 arms on top of a lotus, a fully blown lotus. You see her, all the images around that side, all praying to Mahalakshmi. This Mahalakshmi is the god of wealth. She is the god of prosperity. She represents everything good in life. So let's see how beautifully this god of prosperity is represented in this wonderful sculpture at this temple. Now see here, she is seated very, very tranquil position, holding 2 lotuses in her 2 hands. You don't find 4 arms for this Mahalakshmi, only 2 arms. Like what you see in the Pallava images, she's holding beautiful lotus on her hand. Look at her crown, so beautiful crown. She wears a garland of lotus on top of her head also. Look at her ornaments. Look at the beautiful ornaments that she wears. What beautiful ornaments that she has. Look at the designs that she wears. The Mekhalabharanam, the hip chains, everything, and her dress. Totally beautiful. The Stana Kanchukam. Normally, all these Lakshmi images or Sridevi images are provided with Stana Kanchukams. What beautiful decorative Stana Kanchukams you see here. She's seated on top of the lotus. She represents prosperity. She is the goddess of wealth. Where is prosperity? Prosperity comes to us only when the entire world is happy with all agricultural, everything in flourishing condition. When all these things have to flourish, there should be plenty of rains. When the rain comes, the prosperity comes all together along with that. So to represent that rain is the necessity of the prosperity, you see the cloud formation shown behind her. Very beautifully, they have shown the cloud formation behind her. And when that rain comes, prosperity also comes. And the rain runs and the ponds are filled. The lotus is fully bloomed. And on top of that lotus, Devi comes and sits there. When Devi comes and sits there, the water is full. Elephants do come there. They see the goddess there. They pour the water onto a god as the Abhishekam. What a beautiful, excellent representation of Mahalakshmi there. amazing feature of this Mahalakshmi that you can see there. Look at that elephants pouring the water from the pond or the lake or wherever she's seated. And they're doing the Abhisheka for this. So this Lakshmi is an absolute representation of prosperity. The next image right opposite to the Mahalakshmi is that of the Ganga Murti. Gangala Murti. This Gangala Murti is again a form of Vichadna, Shiva, who came to announce the end of the world. And this image, what you see here, is totally covered with the stucco, and it's been painted during the Nayak period, the Vijayanagar Nayak period. On all these structures, what you see here is an addition that was created during the Nayak period. And of course, one of the arms is totally broken. The sixth-armed Gangala Murti is standing in Tribanga. The upper arm is holding a snake, and the middle one rests on an antelope, and the lower one is playing a damaru, which is again broken. And the upper left arm, he holds the trident across his shoulder, and the chauris is hanging in the trident. And his head is on top of the dwarf who's seen below, carrying the Bhikshapatra. A pair of sandals he wears, and all these things are plastered and colored during this Vijayanagar Nayak times. And most of the sculptures, they have removed it. Unfortunately, they have not done this, or they could not remove it. They have left it like that to show how it was. So this is the close-up image of that. You can see here, one of the arms is broken, 2-3 arms are broken. And the whole image is plastered. And all these are extra work done with stucco on top of this image, which was done during the Nayak period. Now, next one is as you come out and take the pradakshina, the first image that you come across is Ganapati, the Nardana Ganapati. This Nardana Ganapati is seen with all the Ganas around him, and this is the beautiful Ganapati who's dancing. It's a beautiful black basalt. Beautiful Ganapati is seen there. And with the upper arm, he holds the Parasu, and the right holds a broken tusk. And the upper left arm is just lifted above. And with the right arm, he holds a fruit in his hand also. The trunk goes up to the fruit. This is the close-up view of this Ganapati. Unfortunately, they have covered this Ganapati. The reason why they have covered this Ganapati is that this Ganapati, when you tap it, you get a metallic sound. People started tapping it so much that they felt that this will be broken at some point of time. And they put a grilled gate on top of it and saved this Ganapati as of today. It's a wonderful Ganapati, a beautiful Ganapati. And he's seen in the Nartana pose. What a beautiful Nartana Ganapati. And all the Ganas below him are also dancing here. You can see that. This is the amazing masterpiece of this Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Ardhanarishwara in Tribanga, seen with 3 arms. The right 2 arms represent Shiva, and 1 arm on the left represents Parvati. What a beautiful image of Ardhanarishwara. Shiva's upper arm holds the Parasu, while the lower arm is just resting on the head of the bull, the Rishabha. Parvati carries a beautiful Nilotpala flower, a lily in her hand. And look at the elegant way that Parvati and Shiva are represented in the same sculpture. Look at the crown, right from the crown to the bottom. Every differentiation is made from the jewelry, from the dress, and the way in which they stand, the manly posture and the feminine posture. What a beautiful representation, amazing representation of this Ardhanari form of Shiva. Look at that. The smile on the face. Parvati is holding a Nilotpala, I said. A parrot is also seen in her hand, pecking on to the pollens of the Nilotpala flower. Look at the earrings. Look at the jewelry that she wears. Everything is so beautifully depicted here. Amazing sculpture of Ardhanarishwara in this temple. The next sculpture that we see here is that of Harihara. Shiva and Vishnu in one form. Harihara. This is a four-armed figure standing in Samabanga. The right side represents Hara, the Shiva, and the left side represents Vishnu. So it is called as Harihara or Harahari. Saivites call it Harahari, and others generally call it as Harihara. The upper arm is holding a battle axe from the Shiva side, and he's also giving a bow. Whereas Maha Vishnu is represented with Shankar and the other one hand just resting on his thigh. You can see the beautiful difference of the dress also very clearly in this. The Duluka, the lower garment of this Vishnu is so beautifully there, draped up to the foot level, whereas Shiva is seen tiger skin wore up to the thigh level alone. And look at the ornamentation also, it is quite different. And everything is so beautifully depicted here in this beautiful representation of Hariyardhamurti. And this is the best of all sculptures that you can see in this temple. You will hear me repeating the best again and again, because I do not know how to explain it. All the sculptures are wonderful. For me, everything is the best. So for here, this Adavallar, Nataraja, is one of the best sculptures that you can see here. Look at the beautiful representation of Nataraja. What a beautiful representation of Nataraja made in granite stone 1,000 years back. Just like that of a bronze image. Such a beautiful image of Nataraja. Unfortunately, the leg of this Nataraja, lifted leg of Nataraja was broken, and this was remade during the Udayarpalayam Jamindar's time, and that has been kept here. That's why you find that support here also. This is made of stucco, and this is a support which is kept there. This is a beautiful Nataraja. Now, when you see that Nataraja, you can just not walk away. Okay, this is again one among the Natarajas. But this represents a story behind this. You have to see it in care totally to understand this. This story of Nataraja is the dance of Nataraja at Tiruvalang garden. The beautiful dance that happened at Tiruvalang garden between Kali and Nataraja. You see the Kali is being represented here. Now, why Kali and Nataraja did also dance in Chidambaram, but why do I say that is Tiruvalang garden? Because of the Alamaram, the tree that is seen behind there, Nataraja. The tree represents as the place as Tiruvalang garden. The tree shows that this dance competition of Nataraja, Shiva and Kali happened at Tiruvalang garden, and that Alamaram is so beautifully seen here with all the bags and everything, all the birds there in the Alamaram. Everything is very beautifully depicted in this. This is the representation of Tiruvalang garden, Nataraja. Look at that, a close-up fight. Look at the smile. What a beautiful smile. Look at the Patra Kundala and Makar Kundala, the crescent moon, the skull, the beautiful crane feathers that is adorned on his head, and what a way in which his hair is flowing, the beautiful dance that he's doing, holding the Damaru and the Agni in one hand, giving the Abhaya and also the Gajahasta pointing out to his foot. What a beautiful, what a fantastic image. Look at the smile, look at the eyes. You can just keep on staring at him for hours together, but still you will not feel like taking away your eyes from him. Such a beautiful representation of this Nataraja. This Nataraja represents Tiruvalang garden, I said. Again, one more feature to add to that is the representation of Karikalamaya. Karikalamaya played to see Nataraja's dance in Tiruvalang. She was blessed to see that. So after that, seeing the dance, she was blessed by Nataraja to be by her side always. So Karikalamaya, a great devotee, when she lost her husband, everything went away because of her.
Guru, your voice is breaking.
Voice is breaking? Is it okay?
Yes, yes, voice is breaking.
Should I move out? Hello? Can you, somebody, please?
Yeah, it's okay, Guru. It's okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
okay.
it's okay.
It's okay now. It's okay. No problem.
See, this Karikalamaya, she was blessed to give, she got the Payuru, or what you call, she got a skeleton image. All the breasts were shrunk and body flesh was all gone, and she was looking like a devil. So she says, I will be with this figure and always be at your foot. So I will always play the cymbals for your dance. So she plays the cymbals for the dance of Shiva here. On one side of this, you find the Parvati. She has seen this dance of Shiva and Kali happening many times. She's not so very keen on this dance. You can see her face slightly tilted away, but look at the bull there. Shiva's Rishabha Vahana is there by the side of Parvati. That bull is keen to see the Shiva's dance. It has turned its face to watch the Shiva's dance, and it's watching the dance of Shiva. On this side, you have the two sons of Shiva, Ganapati and Subramanya. Both of them are there, seen on top of their vahanas and watching the dance of their father, Shiva. Down below is Banasura, who's playing the Panchamukha Vadyam for Shiva's dance. The next image is that of the Ganga Visarjana. Ganga Visarjana is again a beautiful representation of Shiva. And the entire story is depicted in this panel. You can see that Bhagiratha doing the tapas here, bringing the Ganga. When Ganga comes from the upper world, she flows like that with a heavy force. If she falls into the earth, she will just go into the Patala. So the Ganga has to be stopped, a force has to be stopped. Bhairava prays to Shiva, and Shiva comes and takes this Ganga. It is one of the matted locks, not the entire matted locks. He just releases one of the matted locks and takes the fall of the Ganga into that. When Shiva takes the Ganga in his matted lock, Parvati is very upset because he is giving a position to another lady in his head. So she wants to move away. She is turned away. Look at her leg. She is walking away from Shiva. So Shiva immediately embraces her and tells her, don't go. I'm just doing something for saving this world. And that's what is seen here in this beautiful representation of Ganga Visarjana. What a beautiful sculpture it is. What a beautiful representation of Shiva and Parvati. How minutely they have done it. Amazing work of art. Look at that close up. Look at his hands. Shiva is just in the Alingana pose of Shiva Parvati. His one arm is just on her breast. One matted lock, he brings the Ganga there. And that's also very beautifully shown here in this image. The next is the Lingodbhava. I would say this is the Medicor image in this particular temple. Not much of work is shown in this Lingodbhava form. And this is a Lingodbhava that normally occupies the rear end of the sanctum. Then comes the Maha Vishnu. What a beautiful representation of Maha Vishnu seen here. Normally in earlier temples, the rear end of the temple, either the Lingo, today you find most of the temples having Lingodbhava images. Earlier temples, when the Cholas started, up to 9th century, all the temple images had Mahavishnu behind. So the worship of Shiva and Vishnu in one temple was always there right from the beginning. So this is Mahavishnu represented in these two concerts, Sri Devi and Bhumi Devi. Both of them are there, and Mahavishnu is seen here holding a Shankha Chakra and Abhayahasta. What a beautiful representation. Look at the clarity in the face of Mahavishnu. What a beautiful way it's been represented. The ornamentation of Devis and that of Maha Vishnu is amazing, is amazing. This is Subramanya. Rajendra had a very, very soft corner for Subramanya, or rather he was a great devotee of Subramanya, I would say. So that's why you find the representation of Subramanya here in this wonderful temple. Subramanya is seen here, holding his two idols, the Shakti and the Vajra idol, and giving the boon. What a beautiful representation of Subramanya. Look at the flower garland on top of his head, the victory garland there. Look at his dress, so beautiful. He's shown as the Deva Serapati. What a beautiful representation of Subramanya Swami here in this temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Look at the serene face of Subramanya, smiling. The next is Vishnu Anagaravoti. Anybody who sees this will think it's an image of Parvati and Shiva together seated in Kailash. To understand this as a Vishnu Anagaravoti, you have to see the panel in full context. Now, when you see the panel in full context, there's a story of Vishnu Anagaravoti very clearly explained in this. Look at that. Vishnu is taking up flowers and he does the puja for Shiva. He offers 1,000 lotus flowers every day and does the puja for Shiva. One day when he was offering 1,000 lotus flowers, there were only 999 lotus flowers and one lotus was missing. Immediately, Vishnu took out his eye. You can see him pulling out the eye. So the eye, and he offers it there. So when Vishnu offered this eye to Shiva and did the puja, immediately Shiva was so pleased and that he came forward and offered the chakra. The chakra, the Sudarshana chakra, you can see him, Shiva, holding the Sudarshan chakra, offering it to Vishnu. So this is called the Chakra Dhana Murti or Vishnu Anugraha Murti whatsoever. Now you see this patches in this. The entire patches are seen because this particular sculpture was plastered during the time of the Nayak period and all that work was done. And slowly when they removed it, it started damaging the sculpture also, so they have left it. That's why you find the patches in this particular thing. But it's a beautiful granite image of Shiva Parvati seated on the throne at Kailasha and giving the beautiful Sudarshan Chakra to Maha Vishnu as Vishnu Anugraha Murti. Next is Kaladara, Kalasamhara Murti or Kaladara. The story of Markandeya is well known to everybody, and this is the beautiful Markandeya story where Markandeya hugs to the Shivalinga where he offers the puja. He was blessed to be there only for 16 years. At the 16th year, Yama comes to take his life. So when Yama comes, he goes and hugs on to the Shivalinga, and Yama puts the noose also on the Shivalinga and tries to pull him. So immediately Shiva is upset. He kicks the Kala with his one leg and does the Kala Samhara. You can see that beautifully depicted in this story and the Kala Samhara. Look at the face of Shiva. Look at the way he is kicking up Yama. Look at the Yama down below, crying for his life. Look at the anger in the face of Shiva, showing the Suchi Mudra. You did it, so I am punishing you with one arm raised up there. And kicking up the Yama. Look at that Bhaya, the fear in the face of Yama, asking him to be saved. What a beautiful representation. Next comes the Durga Devi. She is Mahishasura-Mardini, or whatever you call her by the name. Durga Devi, this is a very, very unfinished sculpture that you find in this beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. I don't know the reasons why this temple has got plenty of unfinished sculptures. You can see that very beautifully she has been depicted, almost finished. The lion behind her is unfinished. Similarly, the buffalo head down below her leg is, her foot is also unfinished. So this is a beautiful representation of Devi Vishnu Durga in Tribanga, standing in the beautiful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The next comes the Brahma. Brahma is on to the north side. He forms the center koshna of the north. Here, Brahma is seen not alone, but with his two wives or the two consorts, Devi Savitri and Devi Saraswati. The two consorts of Brahma are seen here. This Brahma is very unusual than the other Brahmas that you can see in many of the temples. Here, the Brahma is seen with a beard. You can see the Brahma in the close-up. He's seen with a beard. And the two consorts are there. He's shown as a man with a beard. That shows that Brahma was, this particular influence of Brahma being shown with the beard is the influence that was from the Gauda Desam. We earlier saw in the lecture, Rajendra brought Ishana Shiva Pandita from Gauda Desam as his Kulaguru or Acharya. So that Gauda Desam influence is there, and that is seen in this temple, in this representation of Brahma, where he's shown with the beard. Another interesting feature of this particular Brahma is that normally Brahma holds the Kamandala and Akshabala there on the upper hands, and down below with the hands he gives the Chin Mudra, Vyakyana Mudra and Pustaka. But here this Brahma is holding the spoon and the, what you call that, Vasodhara stick, which is used for performing yajna or homas. And in one hand, he is holding darba, the auspicious grass that is used for this. And down below, he holds the Akshamala and the Kamandala. So this Brahma is a totally different Brahma from the images that you see elsewhere in other temples. And all this is because of the influence of the Gauda Desha Pandita, Ishana Shiva Pandita, who had a major influence on Rajendra. The next important image is Bhairava. A beautiful image of Shiva as Bhairava, the Samhara Murti. You can see the fearful, the Raudram in the face of Bhairava with the beautiful Agni as his head. Look at that, twisted eyebrows and bulging eyes and the protruding tusks out of the mouth. The Jwala Makutam is very clear, very beautiful representation of Bhairava Murti in this temple. Next is the Kamantaka, the Kamadahana Murti, as we call it. Shiva is doing the Kamadahana Murti. That's been explained in this panel. Here you see Manmada and Rati and all the devas there. So because of Kumar Shambhavam, Manmada was asked to go and shoot the arrows of flower so that Shiva falls in love with Parvati. So Manmada agrees to do that and he goes there. Then he's about to shoot the arrow of flowers of love towards Shiva. Rati is pleading with him, don't do it. It is bad. Don't do it. But in spite of that, Manmada shoots the bow of arrows. So that immediately Shiva gets angry and all these devas are saying, crying for him. So look at that Shiva. He is punishing him. How he punishes? He says, you have done the mistake by pointing it out. And he opens his third eye, that is prominently seen here. He opens his third eye and burns Manmada to ashes. And Rati pleads him to get him back to life. And that happens later. So this is Kamadahana Murti. Again, I'm repeating, this is one of the most beautiful or the best sculpture in this wonderful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The Chandesha Anagaravoti. Chandesha Nayanar's story is beautifully told here. Chandesha was a person who used to go with flocks of cows and graze. So every day he used to take the excess milk of the cows and do the Shiva Abhisheka. So one such day he was doing, his father sees it and he gets angry and he kicks the pot of the Abhisheka. Immediately, Chandesha throws a stick onto his father and that cuts his father's leg and he continues to do the Abhishekam. Here you can see his father kicking the pot of the milk and here Chandesha throwing the stick on his father which cuts his father's leg. So because of this act of Chandesha not even realizing that his father did a mistake, he did it and he was continuing with the Shiva worship, Shiva comes and gives Chandesha Anugraha and appoints him as the Chandesha. So Chandesha is naturally, it's not the name, but it is a post that has been offered by Shiva to guard his premises. So this is offered to this Chandesha by adorning the flower garland around his head, and Chandesha Anugraha Murti is called. So this is a beautiful representation of Chandesha Anugraha, which we are going to see it very clearly in detail now. Look at that. Shiva blessing Chandesha with the flower garland on his head. Parvati is seated by his side. Look at Shiva, how beautifully he is being depicted. Look at the hairstyle of Shiva, the Jita Makutam, and look at the crown in the front, the strings of pearls that is hanging here, the Patra Kundalam and the Makar Kundalam. Look at the jewels, look at the beautiful Yagyopavitam, the waistband, the Keyurams, and the Parasu that he's doing. And above all, you see the antelope in his hand. What life it has got. It looks like a real antelope, just ready to just jump out of Shiva's hand. What a beautiful depiction of Shiva here. Amazing workmanship, which you can never see it anywhere. I'll tell you, this is one of the best representation or the masterpiece of sculptural art that you could see. Look at the detailing of that. Look at the crown of Shiva with the skull, the Chandra, the crescent moon, everything, and beautiful antelope in his hand. What a beautiful representation of Shiva. The serenity in the face of Shiva. Parvati by his side. Then you compare the image of Shiva and Parvati together. Parvati is fairer. Normally, Devi is said to be darker. But this sculptor who has used a single stone had two different shades, and he has used it wonderfully to give the effect of the two different idols that he has made here. Parvati, look at the way she's seated. Very majestic. Look at the detailing of her dress, the crown, the ornaments that she's wearing. Amazing representation. I'll tell you, a masterpiece creation. Be it Shiva or Parvati, you cannot say which is good, which is bad. So which is better also. So that way one surpasses the other in its beautiful representation. And down below, you can see Chandesha being adorned with this garland on top of his head by Shiva. Look at the detailing of the garland. Every flower is shown here so beautifully. You can see the detailing of the flowers and the garland that has been adorned to Chandesha. I'll tell you, this is one of the best and the greatest image that you can see in this temple. The next image that you see is Saraswati, Jnana Saraswati, Devi Sharada Parameshwari, which you saw earlier. This is a beautiful Saraswati who's seated on top of a lotus, holding the Amrita Kalasa, Akshabala, and the Pustaka in the hand. She is Devi of Jnana. The Jnana is shown in the third eye of Saraswati. Look at the crown, the Prabha Mandala behind her. Look at the jewelry that she wears. Look at the Padmasana in which she is seated on top of the lotus. Amazingly beautiful. The Yagyopavitam on Saraswati, which shows she is the Devi of knowledge. Look at that. Look at the third eye on Saraswati. She is the goddess of knowledge. She is the one with the Chin Mudra. She explains the jnana to every devotee. Here, you find that seated in Tarjani Mudra. That's because during some time, the hand of Saraswati in Chin Mudra was broken. They have fitted with some other hand, which shows in Tarjani Mudra, which is absolutely not correct for Saraswati, but this was done years ago, maybe during the I mean, 17th century, 18th century, or later 19th century, we do not know. Now, if we try to do anything, this image will be totally gone. So they have left it there. So this is the beautiful image of Sharda Parameshwari as we see the Sharda Parameshwari installed in the beautiful temple of Sringeri. She is very similar in the same posture that you see here in this wonderful temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. This temple, though this temple is constructed in the span of 10 years and concentrated, later also this temple was under the royal patronage for almost 200 years. There are many portions in this temple which is left unfinished. I don't know why after Rajendra, people who came there never took any efforts to finish it. You can see the Yalivaris, which is left unfinished here. So many Yalivaris, so many sculptures are all unfinished here. Still, it's a mystery why these portions are left unfinished. Unlike the temple of Tanjavur, where Rajaraja had inscribed every detail of the gifts and endowments that he had made by himself and his donors, here in this temple, there's not a single inscription of Rajendra, the builder of this temple. Why did he do it? Why did he not leave any inscription that he built this particular temple? It's because of his devotion to Shiva. He did not want to boast about himself. He said everything is Sarvam Shivarpanam. So that was his generosity, and the mind in which he built this temple was a total dedication and surrender to Shiva. That's why he has not left any inscription during his time in this temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The great builder never left anything there. The sculptural beauty of this temple surpasses the Tanjavur temple in many aspects. The temple should not be compared with Tanjavur as they both are two different entities. And these two different entities have to be enjoyed in their individual perspective only. It's clear that when Rajendra wanted to build this temple, he transferred all the sculptors, the stonemasons from Tanjavur, who are working in the temple, and brought them here to Gangaikonda Cholapuram to construct this massive temple. It is not known whether the great Stapati, Kunjaramalla Rajaraja Peruntachan, or his descendants were the ones who created this magnificent edifice. One thing is clear, that this temple was built out of great Shiva Bhakti by Rajendra, a great devotee of Shiva, who built this massive, massive temple for his devotion to Shiva. In spite of the destructions during the Muslim invasions and later by the French and British, this temple stands out as a magnificent temple, and today it is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Thanks to Archaeological Survey of India, who have taken up this great restoration of the temple, and today it's been maintained in such a beautiful manner. My pranams to Rajendra Chola, the builder of the city and the temple, the unknown Stapatis and Shiva Bhaktas who have kept this temple alive till today. Thank you. Any questions? I'm prepared to take. Thank you very much.